At narito naman ang mainit na balita mula sa mundo ng politika. Isang controversial na issue ang muling lumutang ngayon sa larangan ng politika. Ayon sa dating mambabatas na si Paul Daza, dalawang kilalang personalidad sa politika, si Stella Kimbo at Martin Tambaloslos Romualdez ay sangkot umano sa isang malaking kaso ng pagnanakaw sa bayan. Tinutukoy ni Daza ang mga alleged na anomalya sa paggamit ng pondo ng bayan na nagdulot ng malawakang pagkakabahala sa mga mamamayan. Sa isang press conference na isinagawa kamakailan, inilahad ni Daza ang mga detalye na magpapatibay umano sa kanyang mga aligasyon laban sa mga nasabing mambabatas. Ayon kay Daza, naging bahagi ng isang under-the-table na transaksyon si Kimbo at Romualdez kung saan ay naubuso umano nila ang mga pondo na inilaan para sa mga proyektong pangkaunlaran sa kanilang mga nasasakupan. Ipinakita niya ang mga dokumento at mga kontrata na magpapatunay na may malawakang pandarayas na naganap. Nang tanungin si Daza kung bakit siya lang ang naglantad ng impormasyon, sinabi niyang hindi ako natatakot. Kung walang nangyayaring mali, bakit kailangan magtago? Ang taong bayan ang unang dapat makaalam ng mga bagay na may kinalaman sa kanilang kaban ng bayan. Inihayag ni Daza na nagtipon siya ng mga testigo at mga ebidensya na magsisilbing patunay sa mga paratang labang kina Kimbo at Romualdez. Sa kabilang banda, itinanggi naman ng mga binanggit na mambabata sa mga aligasyon. Ayon kay Stella Kimbo, ang lahat ng proyekto at gastos na kanilang isinagawa ay nasunod sa mga legal na proseso at may mga dokumentong approvals mula sa mga kinauukulan. Si Romualdez naman ay nagsabing walang katotohanan ng mga paratang at ito ay isang pambansang paninira laban sa kanilang mga pangalan. Sa ngayon, ang mga ahensya ng gobyerno ay nagsasagawa na ng investigasyon ukol sa mga aligasyong ito at makikita natin kung paano ang magiging epekto nito sa kanilang mga posisyon sa gobyerno. Patuloy ang pag-monitor ng mga otoridad sa kasong ito. Magbibigay tayo ng updates habang lumalabas pa ang mga detalye. At heto nga mga balitang ating pagkakatutukan at kung bago ka pa lamang sa aking channel ay huwag kakalimutang mag-like, share and subscribe para updated ka sa aming mga bagong balita dito sa Tatak Pinas.
Adopts best practices po in terms of securing their data. So kasama na po dyan ang kung ano ang adopted practices ng kanilang mga staff.
Madam Speaker, para sa aking susunod po na katanungan po, kumakailan po naglabas ang NEDA ng pahayag na ang isang individual na gumagastos ng 64 pesos kada araw ay hindi itinuturing na food poor. At alam nating maraming tao ang hindi natuwa dito. Given this reaction, maari po ba natin marinig on record, Madam Speaker, at para rin po sa kaalaman ng ating mga kababayan na nanonood, paano po natin nakuha ang computation na ito?
Well, Madam Speaker, Your Honor, bago po ipaliwanag kung paano natin i-compute, and I will do that shortly, nagpapasalamat muna kami sa lahat po na nakisama dito sa pag-discuss dito sa napaka-importanting topic. Marami pong nagalit, marami pong nag-react, at so it really shows na we have a very engaged public. So thank you very much for raising this very important concern. At mabuti na lang po that we have an agency like NEDA na willing pong makinig, and nag-commit na naman po si Secretary Balisacan to review this food poverty threshold. Nag-commit na po siya. And so I reiterate that commitment. Kaya sana po ay ikatuwa natin. So on the question kung paano po natin to kinocompute, dalawa pong ahensya ang naka-assign po dito. Doon po sa first part, which is the menu, ay nanggagaling po ito sa FNRI, which is under the DOST. So sila po ang nagde-determine kung ano ang caloric requirement, and at the same time, dinedetermine din nila kung ano yung food menu that is appropriate for that caloric requirement. Kapag na-determine na po yan naman po ay binibigay sa PSA para sila naman po ang gagawa ng costing ng food menu na yon. So yun po ang general process. So those two agencies come together and come up with that threshold. But again, if I may continue, pati po ako ay nag-react dyan dahil nakaka-confuse talaga ano bang ibig sabihin yan. Because what we are computing, so food poverty threshold, ito po ay sukat ng kakulangan, di ba? Pero ang hirap niyang intindihin, di ba? Kasi ano bang ibig sabihin nun? Ang hirap niyang ipaliwanag, di ba? So, sukat ng kakulangan, pero pag i-interpret natin, parang ang tanong natin is, sapat na ba yan? Pero ang sinusukat dapat niya is kakulangan. Kaya napaka-confusing niya, di ba? So, kaya sabi ko, dapat na talagang i-review yan. At yun na nga, thankfully, may ganon. So, let me just give a rundown of the issues. First of all, doon sa menu, pag titignan natin ang menu, healthy ang content. So, okay, merong mga kangkong, etc. Pero, yung mga ni-raise sa mga hearings, anong gagawin natin? Hindi naman abot kamay ang mga healthy options na yan. Ang usually na abot kamay, yung mga hindi healthy, katulad ng noodles, sardinas, etc. Okay, healthy nga ang kangkong. Pero bago ka makadating sa kangkungan, gagastos ka ng pamasahe na mahal, di ba? So, kasama ba yung pamasahe, dagdag pamasahe papunta sa kangkungan doon sa 64 pesos? So, yun ang tanong, di ba? Kasama ba ang indirect cost dito sa 64 pesos? Malamang hindi. So, number 2, ano yung pagdetermine ng caloric requirement? Kasi kung sinasabi natin na 1,900, ang ibig sabihin ba nun kapag nag-diet ka at kumain ka ng less than 1,900, anong ibig sabihin nun? Hindi ka na poor ka na? O di kaya kapag ang caloric requirement mo ay more than 1,900 dahil ikaw ay manggagawa, ikaw ay construction worker, anong ibig sabihin nun? Dahil kailangan mo ng 2,400, ay hindi ka na poor. Pero sa totoo lang, ang income mo naman ay minimum wage. Kaya sabi ko, napakahirap niyang interpret. And finally, hindi naman yata natin ginagamit talaga itong food poverty threshold. Ang income threshold ay ginagamit natin sa mga programs tulad ng 4Ps, etc. Pero bakit itong food poverty threshold? Parang hindi ko yata siya nakikitang ginagamit sa mga policies. Kaya ang aking mungkahi Isaneda bilang budget sponsor, baka yan ang kailangan natin reviewin. Kailangan ba natin yan? So yun po ang 3 points bilang budget sponsor, and thankfully, very open ang NEDA sa pakikinig. Salamat po. Pasensya na sa long answer.
Madam Speaker.
Kong JC, I just wanted to remind you that your time has run out, so please wrap up.
Yes. One last manifestation lang po, Madam Speaker, before I wrap up. First of all, I would like to take this opportunity, of course, to express my gratitude to our distinguished sponsor, Congresswoman Kimbo, and of course, the NEDA, in their willingness to review our poverty estimation methodologies. Kasi alam naman po natin lahat bilang mga mambabatas, we rely on this research and data when it comes to crafting laws on poverty alleviation. Ito lang po, napakahalaga, Madam Speaker, ng mga datos na ibinibigay ng PSA. Ngunit, sa mga isyong aking binanggit tulad ng mga anomalya sa late registration of birth at death at tila hindi na sapat o napapanahong madudadahiya sa pagkuha ng datos, labis ang epekto nito sa mga ahensya ng gobyerno, pati na ang kanilang mga programa at plano na ginagamit at nabasehan nila ang PSA. Halimbawa na lang po sa mga sumusunod na polisiya at programa ng gobyerno na ang basehan ang populasyon. 1, ang national tax allotment, ibig sabihin may posibilidad na hindi accurate ang tax allotment ng ilang LGUs. 2. Social services katulad ng PhilHealth, may epekto ito sa benefit package at service coverage na inilalaan sa bawat tao at bawat serbisyong pangkalusugan na pwedeng ma-avail. Number 3, anti-poverty programs. Kung hindi wasto ang datos, maaaring maapektuhan kung saan ilalatag ang mga programa. And lastly po, Madam Speaker, apektado rin ang pagtatansya at paglalatag ng tulong at ayuda during disasters at iba pang sakuna at marami pang iba. Maraming salamat po, Madam Speaker and distinguished sponsor.
Majority Leader.
Salamat.
Madam Speaker, next to interpolate the sponsor, I move that we recognize Representative Franz Castro of the ACT Teachers Party List.
The Honorable Representative Franz L. Castro is hereby recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Yun lang talaga yung itatanong ko yung 64 pesos. At kasama ko ang sponsor, Madam Speaker, nung tinatanong natin yung DOST as regards doon sa ano ba yung healthy na meal ng bawat tao. At nagbavari pa yan, Madam Speaker, doon sa trabaho, di ba? Nagbavari pa yan sa kung ikaw ay estudyante o infant o yung bata. Kasi yung computation ng 64, Madam Speaker, ay talagang hindi yon katanggap-tanggap sa ating mga kababayan. At hinahamon nga natin ang NEDA, Madam Speaker, na kahit na isang buwan, mamuhay ng 64 pesos a day na meal kung talagang kakayanin, no? At magiging malusog pa rin. Kasi tayo nga na mga halimbawa yung mga nasa opisina, mga nagtatrabaho, kailangan nating maging healthy para makapag-isip tayo ng maayos, no, para sa ating mga kababayan. Okay. So ang sinasabi po, Madam Speaker, ng Ibon Foundation na at least 90 pesos yung kailangan ng ang isang family of 5, no, na para hindi na siya ituring na food poor. So doon sa mga criteria ng NEDA, Madam Speaker, doon sa pagdetermine ng 64 pesos. Ano nga po ba yung pinagbatayan ng 64 pesos? Kasi kahit yung NEDA, kahit po, Madam Chair, yung DTI, tinanong ko din, based on consumer products, kung yun na lang yung bibilhin ng ating mga kababayan, sa halagang 64 pesos, ay ano ba yung menu? Diba? Kahit na yung noodles, ngayon ay 10 to 15 pesos yan, depende sa grams or sa timbang. Yung kape din, depende kung ito ay 2-in-1, 3-in-1, diba? So hindi naman yan 7 pesos lang. Or yung noodles na 7 pesos, tapos meron pa bang kape na 5 piso o 4 na piso. So, wala, no? Hindi natin makikita. Kahit na yung kangkong na sinabi ni Mr. Speaker ng ating sponsor, yung kangkong, pag pumunta ka sa palengke, yung isang ganon, yung isang bugkos ay 20 pesos. No, 20 pesos na yung isang bugkos ng kangkong kung gusto mong magluto ng adobong kangkong, no? Na medyo meron namang sustansya, kaya lang yun na lang ba yung araw-araw. Kahit pa yung tokwa, no, as substitute doon sa meat. Yung tokwa, Madam Chair, yung maliit, 3, 10 piso, no, nung yung tokwa, kung gusto natin ng Kahit pa yung toge, Madam Speaker, distinguished sponsor, kahit pa yung toge na kalahating kilo, yun na po ay 20 pesos. No? Kaya talagang, talagang yung 64. So, kaya nga, ano nga po ba yung pinagbatayan ng 64? Paano po ba kino-compute itong ng NEDA, hindi ng DOST? Kasi sa DOST, hindi talaga sila naniniwala na yung 64. Pero yung NEDA po, bigyan nyo nga kami ng, i-educate nyo po ba itong representasyon na ito at ang taong bayan? Paano nyo po ba nakukuha yung 64? Ano po ba yung mga factors?
Well, again, Madam Speaker, Your Honor, kumbaga po sa boxing, sumuko na nga ang NEDA. At sinabi nila na magre-review na po at i-review na talaga nila. But again, para lang sagutin ang inyong tanong, matapos nila makuha yung listahan ng mga food items doon po mula sa FNRI, kino-cost out lang nila yung items doon, pero ina-assume nila na ito ay prepared at home. So kunwari, di ba, magkasama tayo sa DOST budget hearing, kung naalala ko, ang almusal, scrambled eggs, parang rice, scrambled eggs, and dilis yata, and kangkong. Parang ganun yata yung pagkakaalala ko. So, ang kanilang assumption is prepared at home itong meal na to, and at the same time, yung cost is only the direct cost. Ibig sabihin, hindi pa po kasama dyan yung pamasahe kung ikaw ay namalengke at malamang namalengke ka.
Panluto.
Tama. So, hindi pa kasama ang gasol, yung LPG. So, ganun po. So, meron mga ganong mga hindi na isama. Kaya nga po, talagang kailangan talaga natin repasuhin itong ating pinag-uusapan. And at the same time nga po, ang akin nga is, paano natin pag-uusapan ng isang menu sa isang lugar na hindi naman siya readily available, di ba? So, yun ang mga palaisipan. So, at the end of the day, baka naman hindi natin kailangan ito. Baka naman for internal use na lang itong food poverty threshold kasi hindi natin naiintindihan eh. Pero yung income threshold is mas madaling intindihin. Hindi po ba? Kapag sinabi natin na ang income threshold natin ay 18,500 for a family of 5 per month, kapag pinag-uusapan natin ang income threshold ay 13,500 for a family of 5 per month, mas madaling intindihin. Ibig sabihin, ito na ang sukatan ng kakulangan. Na ibig sabihin, kapag nandun ka sa 13,500, ikaw na ang, kumbaga, kapag lumagpas ka ng kaunti doon, ay nakaahon ka ng konti doon sa poverty line. Parang ganon. Pero yung food poverty, mas mahirap. Kaya sabi ko sa kanila, baka naman for internal use na lang ng NEDA.
Okay. Thank you po, no, yung talagang hindi madali at hindi madaling tanggapin nga itong 64. So, siguro bago magpahayag ang NEDA ng mga ganitong mga idea, ay maging lumapag kayo sa ground at subukan nyo, no, bago nyo isabihin yung ganito, itry ninyo, no, sa sarili ninyo kung kaya nyo yung ganitong amount, no, at wag natin sabihin kasi Madam Chair, Madam Speaker, maaring kasing ito yung ginagamit, maaring gamitin para ma-determine yung living wage o yung minimum wage. Diba? So, kino-consider lahat yan. Dito nga, no, sa binigay sa atin ng DOLE na report, itong sinasabing food na kailangan po ng isang pamilya na 5 ay 315 na malapit dito sa 64, 320. Kasi 64 times 5. So, 320 yan. Noong 2021, ang computation ng DOLE, yung para sa food ay, for a family of 5, is 315 sa NCR. Sa car ay 271 and so on. Nagkakaiba pa yan per region. At yung mga non-food naman, magkakaiba din yan per region. Kaya sinasabi natin dito, Madam Speaker, na yung computation nung 64 ay talagang mukhang 3 years ago pa yung level niyan. Kung titignan din natin doon sa, hindi naman natin sinasabing tama itong sa DOLE, pero pinagbabatayan lang natin. Kasi baka yaan din yung maging yung batayan para doon sa minimum wage, Madam Speaker. So, hanggang kailan po ba yung review, yung gagawin na review, Madam Speaker?
Only just one point I'd like to make or ask the sponsor. I had found out that the BSP had canceled the printing of the national ID, which is probably the right move to do because that project has been so delayed and has been a failure in my assessment of that project. But the original project was really a project of NEDA PSA. May I ask the sponsor what's now the status on the PSA side? Because on the card printing side, it's been canceled, and I'm sure there'll be cases filed. What's now the status on the, from my understanding, which is the IT component side with PSA?
Okay, so currently, we have 89,893,983 Filipinos registered. That is as of September 12. I hope that you noticed that we brought the system here today, and that was just for you, Your Honor, because the last time, I believe you made a manifestation at the DICT hearing, you said that you did not have a national ID. So we took note of that and wanted to make sure that your details would be captured today. So they set up the system here at the lobby. So we hope that you took advantage of their presence today, Your Honor. So for sure the numbers would have increased as of today. And so this would be 97.7% of the 92 million target for registration. And as of 12 September, 53,712,583 ID cards had been delivered.
I'm sorry, how can you repeat that again?
53,712,583 ID
Madam
cards
Speaker,
had been delivered.
I appreciate the efforts of sponsor PSA. I wasn't able to avail of doing the biometrics. I've been here the whole morning
It will
to night.
be there for 1 week.
Okay, I'll try to go there. But I mean, I appreciate the effort, but I think more importantly, it should be highlighted that that project has been, for lack of a better term, a failure. It's 3-4 years delayed. Some billions of pesos have been appropriated and used for the national ID system. In fact, in the last budget hearing, the DICT, when I had asked about the national ID, I did a quick survey from colleagues and staff in the House. Many of us still haven't received their national ID, despite the fact that we did the sign up. I personally did the sign up, I believe before pandemic, if I'm not mistaken. And many of the staff here probably did so too. Some got their ID, some didn't. But having said that, I wanted to ask the sponsor, who will now be printing the IDs for the hard copy ID, because they gave it to BSP fumbled it. Where will the printing come from now?
This so currently there it is being bidded out. They are looking for an alternative, a new provider. But in the meantime, the DICT is providing digital IDs. So that is the situation at the moment. And in addition, there is an arbitration that is ongoing.
It's a terrible story, unending saga of failure, and I could probably say it's a fiasco. In the private sector, if somebody or if a team or a group failed in a project, there would be suspension, terminations, you'd be written up. So I'm curious, has NEDA or PSA ever done any disciplinary action? Or have there been any findings internally why this project, even though we have appropriated sufficient funds, have been a dismal failure?
Well, at this point, it's the BSP that is. It's the BSP who is claiming liquidated damages from their service provider.
I understand, Madam Chair.
But that's all at the moment.
Yeah, I know it's a difficult question, but let me reiterate it. There's been a problem with BSP, but I think NEDA PSA should also share some burden. It's been delayed. We all know that. I think no less than the President has complained, from what I know, both publicly and privately. No less than the President's exasperated on this very good project. So my question, Madam Speaker, is, has anyone in NEDA or PSA, it's the normal course of things, you would do a due diligence or an internal investigation and kind of determine where we failed, where we should improve. Because it can't just be, yes, we're going to keep on doing it year after year, it's the same questions, same responses. So has there been any fact-finding, any due diligence from PSA? And if so, were there any findings? Because other than learning, good lessons from a failed project, there should be some sort of action taken, at least from within the department or within PSA.
So the NEDA had reported this to the President, and the President had already ordered the DOJ and the OSG to look into the matter. And so the termination of the contract, that's not related. And so the OSG provided an opinion to the BSP. And that opinion is part of that arbitration.
But, okay, thank you for that. That gives us some information. About on the side of PSA, Has there been any fact-finding results, evaluation, opinions on any possible shortcomings on the PSA side?
Yeah, so at the moment, the PSA is of the belief that it is better to do the digital national ID. That is according to the PSA. But I know where you're coming from. Their TOR is to produce the physical ID. Yes. So this is a question that you've been asking me 3 straight years. Madam Speaker, Your Honor.
And doesn't the sponsor agree that it's a fiasco? It's a failure. And I guess would it be a fair statement to say that it's been a failure of a project? Would I be too harsh to say that?
Well, Madam Speaker, Your Honor, it is what it is.
And
We were unable to.
is it a failure or a success?
It cannot be a success. We were unable to complete the target. It resulted in arbitration. It did not result in a completion. So, and we are currently looking for an alternative.
But, okay, I don't want to put my esteemed colleague too much on the spot because she's just responding for the agency. But is it correct that my understanding is the President has asked DOJ, OSG
For an opinion,
on the BSP side, but how about on the PSA side? On the possible shortcomings, despite 4 or 5 years now, billions of pesos, there hasn't been really a completion of the project.
none on that matter,
Should there be one?
Madam Speaker.
Should there be one in terms of accountability, transparency, good governance, or better governance?
Well, that's something that we can think about.
So the sponsor doesn't believe there should be accountability on this project?
We should always think about accountability. It's a very important project.
And what does the Secretary of NADA have to say about that?
Open to a third-party review,
Oh, thank you.
Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker, I think that's a good idea. And I would highly recommend that. And I leave it up. You know, our job today is just to make sure that we're discussing budgets, appropriations, utilization. That's an implementation issue, and I leave it up to the wisdom of my distinguished colleague to push for that because you do sponsor that agency. And I support that suggestion of a third-party review.
Madam Speaker, distinguished sponsor, to my esteemed colleagues, and sa mga opisyalis po ng National Economic Development Authority, magandang gabi po. Madam Speaker, is our distinguished sponsor willing to yield some of her time for some questions from this representation?
Certainly, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker, para sa unang set ko po ng mga katanungan, I will be pertaining po to the budget of the Philippine Statistics Authority. Madam Speaker, tiningnan ko po ang website ng PSA and nakasulat po dito, magkakaroon po tayo ng census for population and community-based monitoring system na magaganap po mula July 15 to September 16. Nakalagay po sa website ng PSA. Meron pong budget ito ng 5.7 billion pesos for data collection, processing, mapping, coordination, and advocacy activities. Meron pong 27.4 million households covered 29,800 institutional living quarters. Can our distinguished sponsor and our department confirm these figures?
That is correct, Madam Speaker. Your Honor.
Madam Speaker, may I also get an update? Since September 16 na rin po ngayon, maaari ko po ba malaman kung natapos na po ba ang ating census, kung ano po ang latest updates dito, kung napuntahan na po ba ang lahat ng mga household and institutional living quarters na covered?
Madam Speaker, Your Honor, sa ngayon po, nakumpleto na po natin ang 70% ng ating target.
70%, Madam Speaker?
That is correct.
Madam Speaker, may I know, when can we expect na matatapos po ang ating census?
Ang expected po natin na date of completion is October. But let me just explain na the reason po for bakit nagkaroon tayo ng konting delay is because of the typhoons. So yun po ang dahilan. And by December ay ito-turn over na po ang data sa NEDA. Madam Speaker, Your Honor.
Madam Speaker, I would also like to confirm from our department and from our distinguished sponsor, based on a 2020 census, 3.7 million Filipinos were without birth certificates. Pwede ko po ba malaman kung sa 2021, 2022, and 2023 census, ano po ang findings ng ating PSA? Ilang milyong Pilipino naman po ang walang birth certificate?
Yung pong first figure na binigay ni Honorable Abalos, tama po yung figure, pero doon po sa for years 2021 and 2022 ay wala po tayong nagawang census.
Wala pong nagawang census. Okay po. And then for my next question po, Madam Speaker, I would like to confirm, sa isang hearing po sa Senado, ayon po sa PSA, meron pong mababang low death registration rate sa iilang bahagi po ng ating bansa. For example, sa BARM, nabalitaan ko po, for the year 2020, 30% lang po ang mga death registrations natin, and for 2021, 42% naman. Can our distinguished sponsor confirm this?
Yes, that is correct, Madam Speaker, Your Honor.
And also po, Madam Speaker, may I get a rundown po? Tuwing nagko-conduct po ng census ang PSA, ano po ang mga major data items na kinokollect po natin sa ating mga census? And at the same time, may I know how these data are significant when it comes to the crafting of legislations, for example, pagdating po sa ating social protection programs, and pati na rin po sa distribution ng ating national tax allotment sa mga lugar na nangangailangan po ng karagdagang pondo at budget.
Sa unang tanong, Madam Speaker, Your Honor, kung anong information ang kinokolekta. Ang una po dyan would be the household characteristics. So, niro-roster po lahat ng tao sa loob ng isang bahay at pagkalista po.
Sa naging isyong ito, ano ang iyong naging reaksyon? Maging malaya sa pagbibigay ng iyong personal na opinyon sa comment section. Kung hindi ka pa nakapag-subscribe,